I'm Daniel Laskarin, and I'm at Deluge Contemporary Art, where I've got an exhibition of works that have emerged largely over the last 6 to 8 months, but they bring with them residue from an ongoing studio practice, because I don't work in any one fixed moment. I came by art making rather older than a lot of people do. I had a previous career as a helicopter pilot engineer. I traveled a lot. I always wanted to be an artist, and it was sort of sidelined through my expectations of what was real and what wasn't. From flying, I learned that I could do pretty much anything that I wanted to do, and that was a major revelation. So various things led me from there to what is now a very active studio practice. I also teach, and the two go really hand in hand to make an overall kind of a life, I guess. My studio practice is a lot of questions and a lot of tests, a lot of trying things out. I think that one of the great things about art is that it's a way of making thought material. I like working with materials, I like making things, I like the substance of things. And I find that when I work with things, I affirm myself, I affirm my existence in the world. In a sense, I recreate my existence in the world. So this exhibition comes out of that mindset. It doesn't have a particular agenda. I'm not aiming at a particular sort of meaning or message. There's enough of the world that's telling us what to think already. And I don't want to tell people what to think. I'm more interested in the questions that come from a kind of exploration, creation of propositions or hypotheses about what things are, all done materially. This exhibition then came about through an interest in actually the very diverse ways in which I might work. So I had the notion when I was starting to prepare pieces for this that it would be something of a group exhibition done by one person. I don't think the same thing all the time. I don't think the same way all the time. So I don't make work the same way all the time. And my work may move from medium to medium, discipline to discipline, object to photograph, to digital print, to video, to sound installation. I feel quite confirmed in the notion that that's maybe an important way for me to work, at least right now. Who knows? Tomorrow, different story. The works that are here have sometimes a narrative content, sometimes they're more formal in their outlook. One of the things that holds them together for me is an ongoing thread of interest in uncertainty, in doubt, in things that come together contingently, come together in an ad hoc way. So a lot of these works come from trying to knit together, to find the meeting point amongst a range of diverse ideas, a range of ideas that don't necessarily belong together. Sometimes I'm asked if I have a political or a social agenda or message in my work. Not so much, not as such. But I think that the ways that works come together reflect a mode of thought. And that mode of thought is always political, it's always social. Can't get away from it, don't want to get away from it. But again, it has to do with connections between things, the way people might connect. So if we look at Till We Embrace, for example, I can talk about the way that things come together in that, perhaps. The starting point for this work was a set of drawings from 19th century farm devices that one might make for use around the farm. Now, the great thing about farmers then and now is that they have to make things work with what's at hand. They don't just throw things away and get new ones. They invent constantly. And it's a very ad hoc kind of invention. So the core element for this work was a little device that was a feed bin for horses, and it was designed so that the horse wouldn't be able to gobble its food all at once, but would have to eat slowly. And this work came out of that object, But I combined it with some other things. I've combined it with a sparkly golden ball that I found in a thrift store, with some machined aluminum billets that had a kind of interesting formal connection with the material that I mocked up the feed bin with. And also I've incorporated a very abstract play with this material, which is an aluminum honeycomb material, incredibly strong when it's in a sandwich between two other rigid materials, otherwise very flexible. Light shines through it, it flows itself, it's material and immaterial at the same time. Now these things don't belong together as ideas, or necessarily as objects. So my goal with this work was to find a way to make them hang together, to make them a unity. And I guess, you know, when I was speaking about political content or political analogy to the way things come together, in a sense, the way the diverse parts of this come together is perhaps analogous to the way a group of people may come together to form a social unit. Now, that's not a meaning that I want to assign to the work. It's not like that so much. But it is a kind of way of thinking about things in the world and how diverse identities, diverse entities may come together. I'm doing it materially, other people may do it in other ways. That same kind of idea gets melded into one unit, one piece in the work that's called Chair 1. And in that piece, it's a little larger than life size. Straight back square chair fabricated out of steel is utterly merged with this sort of elongated cubic form. You can clearly tell where one starts and where one stops, but it's hard in experience to have the sense of it being either one thing or the other. It's somehow both at the same time, and it's neither, and as a result of that, it really starts to insist on itself. It really generates this kind of very specific existence, a declarative sort of existence. And then it vibrates back and forth between that specificity and the kind of reference to a chair or a minimalist cube, things like that. So that's a different way that, you know, I'm bringing various elements together. The work has to stand for itself. It has to insist on itself. And that's one thing that I look at. So maybe I might work on a work for a period of months or years. It might sit in the studio and I glance over at it every week or so only. But all the time it's generating thought and ideas. And ultimately it comes to a kind of position where it takes its own presence and holds on to it. One work that did that was Contemplating the Quotient. And that came out of a stack of books that were on my studio floor and various other elements that were kicking around for a long time. And eventually, slowly, I managed to kind of knit them together. Here, in considering the quotient, you get a really good idea about how things are sometimes barely held together. This whole piece is balanced. It's quite precarious. It's held together. It's made stable through little wedges, little slivers of metal. On one end is the stack of old used elementary school textbooks, very old. And on the other, a small bust of a figure that a lot of people have asked, whether that's me. It's not, but he's starting to become a friend, I think. I don't know how to describe him otherwise. So he is actually counterbalancing because of the long lever, the books that are there. But the main thing there is the precariousness, the contingency, because we are all contingent.